are the Insiders, and man, are we excited to be here today.
It's a party, baby!
Good evening, everyone, and happy Sunday night, and welcome to another episode of the Insiders Weekly Wrap-Up Show. We don't get to do this enough, or as much as we nearly want to. It's been a while, so welcome to those of you who came out. I have to start this with a funny thing that I just, you read funny things sometimes on Twitter. I've got to read this because this is really funny. So everybody knows who Ozzy Osbourne is. And if you don't, what rock were you under for the last like 30, 40 years? Apparently, now I guess a lot of this stuff, and I think this probably might have something to do with Will Smith and that whole thing with his wife, and how a lot of this stuff now is coming out about open marriages. Well, Sharon Osbourne has revealed that she was able to get over her husband, Ozzy Osbourne, stepping outside the marriage in its early days. But it was more the women he chose to do it with that bothered her. Apparently, she was frustrated that Ozzy cheated on her with unattractive women. Only in America.
Only. My God.
The things you see on Twitter nowadays is crazy. Well, anyway, so, start off with a laugh there. Welcome in, and we are coming off of what was an amazing pay-per-view last night, of course, with Impact and Rebellion, which we will talk more about in this show. We'll welcome some people in, and we'll get started. We've got breaking news that happened throughout the day today, actually, because there really wasn't much of it, and then all of a sudden today, a bunch of stuff came out. So we'll talk about that. And but welcome in, and let's see. We've got Wes. Hello, Wes. We've got Jen Carter. Hey, Jen. Jason Stauffer. We got Big Dan. Reunited, and it feels so good. G.O.D. Oh, geez, G.O.D. Man. Yeah, G.O.D. is stuck in an ER, not around her home. I'm assuming was on her way back from a concert. She got to meet Caleb, which is cool. And oh my gosh. So everybody keep G.O.D. in mind. Obviously thoughts, prayers, and everything like that, because found out she had, I think it's sepsis. That is not something to play around with. So get that taken care of. That's not a good thing. But yes, everybody will be obviously thinking about G.O.D. Conrad is here. Hey, yo. What's up with you, Conrad? How are you? Jason Stauffer, Wes, Sean Rousset. What's up, Sean? How are you doing? It says your pain's under control. Well, that's good. All right. So, and I'm sure people will probably join us as we go. All right. So we've got a full plate, but let's start with some breaking news, right? So apparently, and we've been talking for a while about this particular person. Out of the blue, she is trending on Twitter, and that is Asuka. So the story is, apparently, now we all know Becky Lynch is coming back tomorrow. That's been said a while ago, so everybody knows she's on her way back. Well, apparently, so is Asuka, and as soon as tomorrow. So it just, wound out today. I'm surprised the dirt sheets didn't pick up a hold of this one, but apparently Asuka could be on her way back tomorrow, on Raw. And, they're also talking about possibly pairing her up with Becky Lynch, which I guess maybe makes sense because Bianca, of course, has the thing with Sonya, and so who are you going to have Becky go after? So kind of out of the blue, Jeff. I mean, just out of nowhere, we got an Asuka occurrence here.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a good thing. We've been wanting her back for a while now, so glad that she's potentially coming back as early as tomorrow.
Yeah, and we'll see. Again, this is obviously speculative news, so there's nothing in stone written that she will be back tomorrow, but something to keep an eye on for Raw for tomorrow night. There's another thing trending as well today. Let me see what else came up here. They were talking about FTR. you all know that the FTR has been mentioned about possibly going back to WWE. Well, apparently there's a little more fire with that than originally had thought. And that kind of shocks me, surprisingly. I know their contracts are coming up, but I can't see that Tony Khan wouldn't want to re-sign them or get them re-signed. They're a big part of his show. So, I was kind of taken aback by it. I think Big Dan pointed it out. But I was like, oh, man, especially with how they left there and even their name, Jeff. I mean, their name is a shot against creative from WWE. So, well, I don't know. I guess things work in strange ways in wrestling, and anybody can get over stuff. And the word is that WWE has a lot of interest in bringing them back. Now, whether the interest is mutual or whether AEW steps in and signs them to a big deal again for a little while, but I don't know. Do you think they could end up back there? I mean, never say never. I guess, Jeff. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen in wrestling. Anyone can go anywhere. I think if you had told people a year ago that on April 24th, 2022, Cody Rhodes would be back in WWE,
Yep.
they would look at you like you are some strange person. So I think anything at this point can happen. I think that it would be interesting given the way that they were treated by WWE to see them back. They're clearly one of the best tag teams in the world.
Yeah.
And have been for quite some time. And, they deserve to be built as such. And, they had a lot of steam going into AEW. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when their contract expires. Obviously, I think Tony's gonna put the money where it needs to be, but it all depends on opportunity, I guess. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and you also have to wonder. WWE hasn't exactly been on top of their tag team game, so maybe this is a way or a plan for them to kind of get that built back up. If the AEW does something tremendously better than WWE does its tag team wrestling, and of course FTR are part of that. The Young Bucks are over there. They have a lot of strong and solid tag teams. So maybe WWE wants to get back. And listen, I've said this for years. I enjoy tag team wrestling, always have. And WWF/WWE was a staple of that back in the day. They had a lot of great tag teams there. And it's something they may have kind of pushed to the side a little bit and not really put a lot of emphasis on. Obviously, they're doing it now with RK Bro, which is good. RK Bro's been, of course, and you have the Street Profits and the Usos, of course, carrying the title. So maybe the emphasis is going back on tag team wrestling, and that would be a good thing. So, when other people their contracts are up and they see, well, hey, you know what? Looks like they're putting a little more emphasis on the tag team division. Might be an attractive place for them to go. So, Pine Valley, hello to you from Twitch. Brandon Lewis has joined us. HPC Too Sweet has joined us. Big Dan saying that Cody could be a buffer for free agents. Yeah, could be. Larry Bongo 999 is here from Twitch. What's going on? Alicia is here. Hey, Alicia. And there's Mark. How are you? Odin's son is here as well. Hanzo is here. What's up with you? And Jason Michael are here. Street Profits versus Uso was really, really good. So that's the breaking news. So a couple of things that came out on a Sunday, which is kind of weird. You don't get that very often, but there you go. All right. So we've got a bunch of headlines to get into, Jeff, I believe. So what have we got to talk about first?
So we'll briefly go over this. Obviously, we need to wait to see how Jody's feeling before we say anything about Abby's tomorrow. But we did get some Windham news that we'll go over briefly.
We did. We got, and this is the second time that Windham has done something like this when he's going out to these signings. So the signing that Jeff went to and G.O.D went to in Albany, before he went to that one, we got that whole Q&A thing on Instagram from him. And now this was a little odd because the first thing, if you'll notice, he changed his name to Circle, which we all know what that red circle stands for. It is that whole life is a circle thing. So, of course, when people saw that, they're like, wow, he changed his name. He also changed his picture, his profile picture on Twitter, which if you haven't seen it, it's right there. So don't know what that is. It's almost like a cyclops that has an eye in the middle of the head. A drawing for, I don't know. Is it a sketch for a mask? I'm not really sure. And then, of course, you see the drawing that Jeff has up there as well. And what he wrote, if you, again, haven't seen it, this is a quote, an old quote, an 18th century quote. And he wrote, I do think that it's true that, quote, he who makes a beast of himself gets rid of the pain of being a man, quote. Then it goes on to say, but, so one tweet with B-U-T. That's the one that I saw originally. Like, what is this? But what?
But what?
Just but. And then the next one has that painting, which is, it's like a machine type of, almost like I compare it to like a Borg from Star Trek. It's like a half man, half machine type thing. But if you become the machine, you don't have to feel at all. And then he has hashtag what if, and then to be, you don't have to feel at all. And then he continues it and ends it to be sentient. So very cool stuff that we got here. Very cryptic Bray kind of Windham kind of stuff. And so, of course, Twitter exploded and Windham trended, which is a great thing. I've said this before. I said the dude trends, without being in wrestling. So I mean, it's pretty cool. So what does it all mean? I'm not really sure. Does it mean he's coming back? Does it mean he's, there's something going around in his mind? Is it something to do with the movie that he's been working on? Or is it just random stuff? It does look like something from H.R. Geiger, Noob and Co. That's a good call out. Yeah, it does. It really does, that sketch there. So I don't know, Jeff. I mean, and C Wrestling is here. And C, of course, just met the man. He was at that event that Windham was at this weekend. So he got to say hello and get a picture and meet him and talk a bit. Someone needs to take Windham's phone off him when he is on planes. He gets bored and just and maybe that's all it is. It could just be that, it could just be that. But I mean, I don't know, Jeff. What do you think this all is? I mean, is it just something random that he's doing to put out there, or is there something behind it? Is it a little bit of a hint that something is coming? And especially, I think from all of that, I took the change to the circle is what I focused on, because again, we all know that stands a lot for him, and life is a circle. So what are your thoughts on it? What do you think it is?
I will go into greater detail when we do Abby's.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will say that I think it means that the return might be happening sooner than I originally thought. I could be very wrong. But Conrad saying a lot in the chat. I think this is him staying in the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to do very much. I mean, think about it. He tweets out a word. He changes he changes the name and people are buzzing. So it's just one of those things.
I mean, tweets out butt.
But
That's one comment that said butt.
Like, what does that mean? Well, what does he mean by
right?
that?
Like everybody's freaking out of it.
Yeah. I mean, you start breaking down and trying to do all the theories and stuff like that, and so I think he's gonna come back sooner rather than later. And who knows where he ends up, but I think it's either that or it's about time for him to tell his story. That's what I think.
Yeah, it could be too. It's like the Joker from Dark Knight when he says, Windham puts out a tweet and everybody loses their minds. That's exactly what it is. But you know what? Kudos to him. And like I said, it's awesome that he could do that and not even be really involved in wrestling all that much. And like Jeff said, he did say that they're going to do that Cult of Windham thing. Maybe that's what's on the horizon. Maybe that's what's coming up. And he's going to sit down and he's going to, like Jeff said, tell his story on that format. And maybe that's what we're going to get, or that's maybe what's coming up first. So could very well be. And so segue, once Jody comes back, obviously we'll see about tomorrow. Again, it's going to depend on, of course, she being in a hospital now. It probably doesn't look good this time of the night. She's not even home. But if, they do make it back, of course, Jeff and Jody will talk a lot more about Windham on that show. So make sure you tune in to that. When you link previous tweets, Rome to dust, fall of Roman's name of that list, Roman's victims, that quote you mentioned, Joe, if you Google it, the first result mentions The Rock. All links to Roman. Wow. Okay. See? Yeah, well, there's the man to ask. Obviously, when you diagnose, when you go into that stuff and diagnose all that, he's the guy to ask about this stuff. So there you go. And of course, named by the man himself. If you look at C's photos on his Twitter, the autograph that he signed, pretty cool stuff, man. Pretty cool stuff. He acknowledges the fact that C did some videos and stuff like that. So I mean, and has the channel and talked about how he may have even gotten some or did get some ideas from that. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So yeah, Bray is Windham is, he's trending, and look, that's why. And I mean, when there aren't many wrestling shows, Jeff, that they have, and I was waiting yesterday during Rebellion for someone to say something about the tablecloths that were on the announce table because they were the red and black stripes. So I was waiting. I'm sitting there waiting. I'm like, who's going to be the first one to call out and say, there's red and black tablecloths on the announce table? Listen, Jeff and I would be thrilled. Yeah. Absolutely over the moon if he decided to go to Impact. So, Bray, Windham, if you're listening, listen to Impact's call. All right, man. What is next?
All right. So up next, we've got the build to WrestleMania Backlash so far.
Yes, we do. So, getting involved with matches, they're setting up some stuff. Of course, we got a rematch with Ronda and Charlotte. I think pretty much most people are expecting. And poor Drew Gulak. What? Poor dude. Now he's just getting beat up every week. Poor dude just trying to be a journalist now. He doesn't even want to be a wrestler anymore. He just wants to go out there and be a journalist, and he's still getting beat up. I mean, my God, the thing with Ronda was she had him in that arm lock while she actually signed the contract. So yeah. That's kind of impressive. So you have that, and of course, it almost looks like the big event for that. I could be wrong. I mean, of course, the Charlotte and Ronda match could be the main event, but it looks really like that tag team unification match. It has become the big event for Backlash, and we could have another unification. And by the end of Backlash, the family could have all of the gold, the tag team titles, and of course the Raw and the SmackDown title as well with Roman. So, and then. Where does RK Bro go from there? So we'll see. But yeah, Backlash is only a couple weeks away?
Weeks away.
Man, that's crazy. And I think it's on the same weekend. We just figured out last night it's on the same weekend as Under Siege for why did they do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have pay-per-views Saturday and Sunday. Yes, Asuka's return, Jason. We talked about that earlier in breaking news. Absolutely. Hanzo's smile yesterday after meeting Windham was priceless. The photo that nearly didn't happen. That idea was genius. Drew Gulak is Adam Pearce's assistant. Yeah, poor dude. They got to do something with Ronda and Charlotte. I just don't care, sadly. Something isn't clicking. I don't know. What are you thinking, Jeff? I mean, what are you most looking forward to in Backlash? And is the Charlotte and it brings up a good point. It didn't really click for a lot of people going into Mania. Has it changed in your opinion?
Has it changed? Not really.
Yeah.
They're trying to make it change with doing the stuff with Gulak and then, adding the I quit stipulation. they're trying to make it matter and more appealing to people. But if we're being honest, I just don't think that people are into the feud for whatever reason. I mean, sometimes programs click with you, and we'll talk about a program that clicked with a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
uh, a little bit later when it comes to Josh and Moose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but sometimes they just don't click with you, and it's nothing that the entertainers are doing. It's just not clicking, and I think that's what's going on here is just I think sometimes Rhonda is very disconnected from the crowd, from the fans. I think she's disconnected when she's delivering her promos at times. Charlotte is Charlotte, and I think sometimes people are tired of tired of Charlotte being at the top. Tired of her being in the title picture constantly. So I think that's a little bit of both of them is that people are sometimes turned off by Ronda, and I think people are turned off by the fact that Charlotte is a 13-time champ.
Yeah, there might be, and I guess you could kind of call it Charlotte fatigue.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can see that. And what you're hearing from like a lot of the dirt sheets and even on like Busted Open shows that I listen to are kind of, they're all just saying like they just, like Jeff said, it's just sometimes, listen, that happens. Everything is not going to always click. And then the wrestlers have to do the best that they can to make it work.
Mhm.
And if I'm WWE, I'm ending this here. No matter what the result is, it has to be done. Don't spread this out any longer. For whatever reason, it's not working. Bonkers is saying maybe Ronda should have been the heel. And in that case, though, then you'd almost have to have her feuding with someone else because Charlotte has always been and will always be a heel. So,
I
they could
think
have,
you can do that with her next feud.
yeah, yeah.
I think that's what you can do, and there's also reports out there that Paul Heyman wants to work with Ronda. So find a way to incorporate her with him. I
I'd be
mean,
down with
that
that.
make something happen. But I agree. I think with everything, people don't forget, and everything that she said about the fans and about wrestling in general, people haven't forgotten about that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, you just, there's just something there that isn't working. And, you don't want to place blame on either one of them. I think mostly if you want to go back and look at it, it's one of those situations where there was just no build. There really wasn't.
mhm.
They brought her in, and all of a sudden, I'm facing Charlotte. I'm just going to pick who I'm going to face, and I'm facing Charlotte. She would have been better off to pick Becky. It had a better build. I mean, it just from their past, it would have been a much more logical build up than for her to go after Charlotte. So I don't know. I think it was just a situation where they brought her in, and of course, they're not going to bring her in and pay her gobs of money like they do to Brock and not have her in a title picture. And then I just think that it just isn't working. So whatever they're going to do, end it here. If you're going to give the belt to Ronda, cool. Give the belt to Ronda. Maybe Charlotte wants to take some time off. Whatever the case might be, but I think it needs to end here. I really do. It's run its course. So, and it doesn't look like we haven't heard of anything for Roman. Nothing at this. So maybe he doesn't wrestle. And he was back on TV this past week. But now people are kind of starting to rumble about that shoulder thing that we all saw at WrestleMania, and that maybe he did end up having an injury and he's taken some time off. So he may not even wrestle at Backlash. And not saying that they have to or he has to wrestle at every event, but he may not. So we'll see. Charlotte's getting married. Yeah, and that would be a good reason for her to get written off. Yes. Alicia is supposed to show up on Raw, according to what is out there today. I want to give Ronda a manager, says Conrad. Women's WWE Championships were on SmackDown. Thank you guys for telling the truth in wrestling. It happened a lot, says Chris. Well, you're very welcome. We try. It's not always easy because
No.
sometimes what you see isn't always the truth. But I'm ready for AEW Forbidden Door pay-per-view with New Japan Pro Wrestling in June, says Dalton. And he asked about, I think Jeff answered him, though. You asked about Abby's. Yeah, that's kind of up in the air because G.O.D is not feeling well. She's unfortunately in the hospital tonight, actually. So we'll see. It's up in the air for now. So, all right, there is Backlash. Again, that happens in 2 weeks. You could join us for that. We'll be doing the watch along for it. And of course, the day before, we will have Under Siege for Impact Wrestling. So 2 days in a row, we will be doing watch alongs. Cool. What's next, Jeff?
This has been a lot of fun. This guy's not Elias, by the way. This is Ezekiel.
Oh man.
So Zeke Speaks. Passed the lie detector test, proving that he's not Elias. He is not Elias. Yeah. Joe, what do you think?
Do you remember going back in the day how much they would use lie detector tests? And it's kind of become a forgotten thing in wrestling. You haven't seen it for a while. And they pulled that gimmick out of nowhere. But yeah, listen, say what you want. This obviously is getting over. And the fans are behind it. I mean, he comes out and he takes the lie detector test and he passes the lie detector test and he's not Elias, he's Ezekiel, and then he comes out with the almost like he was gonna do the Elias promo, and then he goes, "You want to hear Zeke speak?" And there's like, listen, this is good for him. Nobody knew where this dude was. He was off of TV since he did that whole thing where he dug the grave, and everybody's like, is he going to be the next Windham? Is he going to be like this supernatural dude when he comes back? And then he was gone, and just gone, and nobody knew what was going on with him. And then all of a sudden he shows up on the Raw after Mania, and then this starts. So, and listen, say what you will about it, it's funny. And he wrestled and he looked good too. So he looked good in his match. I'll tell you what, though, Jeff, is he has the right guy with him paired up here. Kevin Owens is just spectacular at what he does. And he can make something. I mean, here's a guy coming off of what probably was one of the biggest moments in his career with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Had to be, right? And then he comes in, and then obviously someone from creative said to him, okay, Kevin, good job with the thing with Stone Cold. Great, fantastic. But now you're going to go and you're going to work with this guy who claims that he's not who he is. Do you imagine the look on his face when they tell him that? But listen, he's going out and he's doing a great job with it. He's getting so irritated because he keeps trying to prove that he is Elias, and it is backfiring on him. So I think it's great. And Elias is he's front and center on the show. He's getting a big part in the show. I think it's awesome. He says this Ezekiel video had 63,000 views. So yeah, he is.
It's over.
He is. And who would have thought? But I think it's great, Jeff.
I agree. I think it's great. It's fun to have characters like this in wrestling, and this is one of those places where a lot of us fans were asking WWE, do some more fun comedic stuff. Take advantage of the people that you have, use the people that you have, and use them in different ways.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, this is fun. And what better way to get this over than taking, like you said, taking the momentum that Kevin had from everything that happened with Stone Cold and bringing him into the mix with Ezekiel. I mean, it's smart because now you're getting a new character over. That means a lot, and and making just let us have fun. This is just good fun.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff gets overlooked. If there's any one thing that you could say over like the last, with the exception of a segment or two here and there, over the last like 10 years or so, you used to see a lot more of this kind of stuff in WWF days and in, WCW days. They kind of do these little funny segments and kind of poke fun at themselves a little bit and everything. It doesn't happen as much anymore. And it's a shame because, listen, it's good to laugh and it's good for entertainment. And you're seeing some of it now coming in here. So this segment here, you're seeing, of course, we'll talk about it later. We got that wedding segment that happened. And then, you're also seeing it a little bit on AEW. You're seeing it with Danhausen. You're seeing it now with Danhausen and Hook, which we'll talk about that too. So yeah, it's just cool to do. Takes the levity off. It breaks up a show a little bit. We used to say that about R-Truth, that he's just very good at that kind of thing. And if you have people that are good at it, who cares? Let them do it. And if that's what, Elias Ezekiel is going to be, then I'm fine with it. I'm perfectly fine with it. I mean, yeah. Could Petey Williams have pitched the Ezekiel program? It's almost like Swingers Pat. Maybe. That's a good point.
Possible.
Maybe. He came from Impact, and they're good at that kind of stuff. A new feud at Alpha Academy. Yeah, let's see. G.O.D said it's going to be admitted. Ugh. Man, I'm sorry about that. That sucks. Well, hopefully they get it taken care of and under control. Mr. McMahon, Hollywood Hogan, WWE test. Hey, Randy Sam, how are you? I think this has Abyss written on it with Ezekiel. All right, so there you go. Ezekiel, what do we got next?
All right, so up next, Sammy versus Drew. What's next for Sammy?
Speaking of funny, and here's another one. Sammy is another dude who you can literally just throw anything at him and he'll just do it. And usually 9 times out of 10, he does it well. He's a guy a lot like Kevin Owens, and they could just plug him into something. Now, who would have thought you come up with a storyline? Well, you know what? You're going to go out, and of course, he lost his match at Mania. And so then he comes in and he says, I want to challenge whoever walks out that door. And who is it? Drew McIntyre. So right off the bat. And then, he goes out there, he gets in the ring, and he runs away. He runs away. He just runs out of the ring and up the stairs. And then he does it again. Runs out of the ring and up the stairs. So then they're like, well, how can we keep him in there? We're going to have lumberjacks. Nope. The lumberjacks fought amongst themselves. He runs out and up the stairs. So now, next week, they're having a cage match. And Jeff was mentioning this too, and I agree that he's probably going to escape that somehow and get out of there too. And lead up to whatever they're going to do at Backlash. And then that'll probably be the end of it. The interesting thing you want to keep an eye on here is the little thing he had with Roman, because that could be leading to a possible thing with Drew and Roman, which they've been doing that on house shows for quite a while now. So because he enlisted help from them, that could lead to something with him and Roman. So keep an eye out for that. But again, it's funny, Jeff. And I mean, you can't help but laugh every time. And it's so frustrating for Drew. And Drew just wants to get his hands on him. And that, when you just want to beat that crap out of somebody and you can't because he's running away, it's like the biggest coward on the face of the planet. But it's funny stuff, man.
Sammy is so good. Like, I mean, not only is he great in the ring, but he's good at this stuff. Like, he's just good at playing, being that heel that's just slimy and finds a way to wiggle out of any and everything. And this is no exception. And, you're just rooting for Drew to get his hands on him to beat the crap out of him. I mean, that's what you're hoping for at this point, which is great. I mean, it's fantastic. And, if it does lead to something with Drew and Roman, I wouldn't mind that. I mean, I know people are going to say, well, we already know what's going to happen. They're not taking it, but that's fine. Drew's in the mix, so it's fine. But, yeah, I'm enjoying this too. I really am.
It's funny. And again, it's a story that's going to end up having a payoff. The payoff for everyone is to see him get the crap beat out of him. That's the payoff. You, at this point, are getting so frustrated, just like Drew is. And you want to see, at this point, Drew just beat the crap out of Sami Zayn. So the longer that goes on, that's a storyline, and that's your payoff. Jesse Calynn is here. What's up, Jesse? How are you? Sammy is comedy gold. I'd love to see a Commissioner Zane run down the road. Chris says people posting that Sammy will pull a Will Smith on Roman Reigns in the backstage. I don't know if he'd go that far. If he did, he better take off a lot faster than he runs up those stairs. Sammy would be perfect going to NXT to help build Braun Breaker at some point in time. I call it Sammy will handcuff Drew to the ropes and he will escape. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. All right. So what is next on the list?
Well, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but we got Hook and Danhausen going back and forth now.
Hook, as you know, if you watch AEW, is the son of Taz. He's been on shows for a good while now. A lot of it's been on Rampage, and talk about a guy who's over. This dude is over. And listen, the crowd goes nuts for this guy, and he hasn't spoken. He has not said one word until Danhausen came out. And Danhausen gets in his face. Danhausen was trying to curse him, and it wouldn't work. And then he comes out, and then he kind of gets in his face, and finally Hook talked. So it was a big moment, and this is the kind of thing too. We should have maybe done like a comedy theme tonight, because this kind of goes along with that a little bit too. Danhausen is good for this kind of stuff, and a lot of the stuff he does makes you laugh. I know, and I've said this before, I've watched this dude do promos on his Twitter, and I crack up laughing at what he does. He's just good at it. He's really, really good at getting you to laugh, and that character that he plays. Him going up against Hook, who seems like he's just Mr. Serious, comes down there, kind of brooding. He's got the big hair going on. It's almost kind of like a goth throwback a little bit, except this, it doesn't have the black hair, but he's had that the wiry hair, and he's kind of brooding a little bit. So to pair these two up is just smart, because you got one guy that's going to egg him on, and then the only thing is, I don't know who the crowd's going to loves both of these dudes. So it's almost like two fan favorites are going to go at it at some point. But there's going to be craziness and shenanigans in whatever match they have. So I'm looking forward to it. And again, I don't know, Jeff, but it seems as if Hook might be he may be a guy in the future that may already have his future in front of him, as far as being like chosen as to go forward in some form as some type of champion for them down the road.
Yeah, I mean, the crowd loves him.
Mm-hmm.
That's clear. So yeah, why not? Why not? And I mean, I think this kind of this does a couple things. This creates another lane for him to go in. Like, he's got the serious vibe down, but to be able to show that you can do more with your character is good too. So
yep,
I'm digging it. I'm digging it so far.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I could see a rock and sock type deal with Hook and Dan. Oh, they would team up. Maybe that could be maybe a way that they could go with it too. I'd like to see Bryan Danielson take Hook to school, says Tony. It's giving me high school vibes. And Jeff, a nerd trying to help a bully becoming friends. Maybe. Yeah. Jessie can't find her car keys, which also has my home key. So Jessie's now locked out of her house and her car. That's not good. I hope you're in a warm place at least. Oh man. All right. I know what we've got. The next two coming up are from last night. Before we do, Jeff, I got to get your thoughts on one more thing. NXT and Joe Gacy. The whole thing with Braun Breaker. I mean, everybody was getting vibes. We go back to getting Windham vibes from him. I mean, that's kind of what it looks. I mean, you saw when he was looking into the mirror as Braun Breaker was, and then you saw Gacy's face in the mirror. So I guess my question is, can he, if Windham doesn't re-sign there, can Joe Gacy fill that type of spot? Can you see him doing now, and it's not going to be the same thing. Obviously, Joe isn't dressing up with makeup and masks and all that kind of stuff. But can he fill that spot for them? That supernaturally kind of horror-ish type of character. Can Joe Gacy fill that? And you in the chat can chime in on it too. Can he fill that type of spot for them, Jeff?
I mean, I think he can, but I think depending on what you do, with Damian Priest and Edge, you may not need that. You
True.
may not need an additional. You might be able to just um rock with with them for right now. And if you continue to add to that group, so if you add like a Rhea Ripley to that group or Tommaso Ciampa, then you got a stable of similar characters. So mean I think he could. I like what he's bringing to the table. I want to see him be unique and make it his, which I think he's doing. Um, so yeah, I think he could.
And let us know in the chat. Joe, could Windham be the puppeteer behind Gacy? Says Big Dan. I'm not locked out of my house. Well, that's good because I was with my husband. I can't leave my house though because I won't be able to get back in if he's not here or get into my car. Get into my car. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, get out of my dreams. Get into my car. Sorry. I said to Jeff, Gacy had purple light just like Edge. Yeah, a lot of people are going to speculate on that faction too and who's going to be next to join them. Some people are starting to call that Brood too. I really wish they would. That would be amazing if they did that. I would love to see them name it that, but I doubt they kind of will. Keep in mind, Gacy's last name is the same as one of his. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Obviously, that's kind of what they went or why they went there. So, all right, Jeff. Let's get into the next topic, and the next two are, of course, from the big Impact show that we watched last night, and it was a banger of a show. It was an amazing show. We knew people that went, and we don't even want to cross that bridge again because we're trying to get over that ourselves. But what an amazing show this was. If you did not come out with us and watch it last night, you missed it. It was a brilliant show. And I mean, top to bottom. And of course, the main event was Josh and Moose and the like Jeff was saying earlier, the culmination of a storyline there that was done for months and months and months. We had some just outstanding matches on that show, and it was just, you know what? The word fun isn't used much in wrestling anymore. And it gets kind of buried because of all the stuff that goes on the on socials and stuff like that. But I had a really fun time watching that show. Really, really fun time watching that show. And if you guys are not watching Impact, I will tell you, and I've said this time and time again, tune in. I'm starting to see more and more people, like people that I've known on Facebook that are wrestling people for years and years and years and have watched nothing but WWE or now watch nothing but AEW, are starting to come out and say, "Oh, I watched Impact. It was really good." I'm telling you guys, if you have nothing to do on a Thursday, and I know a lot of times you're busy, you have things going on, but if you don't, give it a watch. And not just because we are doing the watch alongs, you can certainly come out and watch it with us, but give it a watch because it has been brilliant. And last night's show was absolutely brilliant, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, top to bottom, great show. I mean, what can you really say? What can you really say about it? I mean, the championship matches were great. Honestly, Eddie Edwards and Chris Bay was a great tone setter for the Countdown show. The triple threat for the X Division title, just crazy.
Yep.
And I really enjoyed the tag team elimination. I really did enjoy that. A lot of people wanted more surprises, but I think you're fine with doing what you did. I mean, we got some fun surprises. We didn't get the big, the Briscoes or
Right.
any of that, but we got Swinger and freaking Zeke.
Oh my God, that was hilarious.
I mean,
We
I,
had Chelsea Green, Jeff, take a table spot that I have not seen done to some men that I've seen go through tables. She got
she
crushed.
went through that table.
She got crushed. Like when you see people go through tables, and this, I mean, first of all, she got thrown through it by Morrissey, who is a big, huge dude. And he just threw that. She got crushed. And the way she was laying down, oh my God. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, that's all I was gonna say. I mean, and then people talking about Ishii,
Yeah,
and Jonah. That was good.
that was a great match. Yep. And an unexpected result.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I said this last night. It would have if Rosemary won, I told Jeff I would have given the show a 20. Unfortunately, she did not. But I said this yesterday. They swerved me because when you're watching matches happen as they go, and you guys, I'm sure, all do this. When you're watching a match go on, you're kind of in your mind self-predicting about what's going to happen. So you're like, okay, this is where this is going. So now it's it's almost kind of like you can kind of pinpoint where it's going to end because you kind of see what's going on and it's related to something they've done before. Well, in that match, Savannah Evans got involved, and yeah, I'm like, here we go. Savannah's going to cost her the match. This happens time and time again. And then Savannah comes up on the apron, and Rosemary turns around and spits she does this. She has the green mist, like Asuka does, spits the green mist in Savannah's face. Savannah falls to the floor. And then Rosemary uses her finisher, and I'm like, oh my God, is she going to win this? And I was like on the edge of my seat. And of course, she didn't. But it was just that thing. It was a thing where they swerved me into thinking that she was going to win the match. And that's really cool because you go in and expect. That's why we do prediction shows, right? Or everybody does their own kind of predictions. And you think you have it down. Okay, this person's going to win. This person's going to win this. And sometimes that's the result. But you get there in a weird way and you kind of get swerved by it. So it was, again, top to bottom, an amazing show. Taya Valkyrie won the AAA title, says Chris. Yes, it was great to see her back. Ace Austin won the X Division, and he's amazing. And that whole X Division is absolutely amazing. So Ace Austin is one of the best in Impact Wrestling. And yeah, absolutely. It was such a great moment for him. Grace and Morrissey was an interesting yeah. How about that pair? Jordan Grace and Morrissey. I mean, yeah, and they came out and they just kicked everybody. Yeah, I mean, they destroyed oh my gosh, the major players. They just like laid them out, and it cost them the match, really. So yeah, it was just a great up and down card. The storylines that played out, the stuff that we got, and like Jeff said, no major surprises, but they usually save a lot of those for Slammiversary. So I'm guessing, we'll start to get that, going on now that they're going to build towards that. So, but Jeff, it was a great show. It was a great show. So, ECP Jonah says, Chris, yes. And from that, we go to our next topic. And new. Man, first off, there probably wasn't a dry eye in that house when Josh came out with his son to that ring. You don't get moments like that very often. And sometimes in the bigger companies, like a lot of people, the people who bang on Impact a lot always say, well, they're too small. They don't have a TV deal. They're not big. But see, here's the thing. You might be right, but you're not going to get moments like that in a WWE event or in an AEW event, mostly because now I shouldn't say that because Brody Lee's son was out a few times. So you see him come to the ring and stuff like that, but you're not going to get that very much, especially in front of humongous crowds. They probably don't, the younger kids like that might be pretty intimidated by that and might not want to scare the kids and stuff like that too. So you may not see that happen very often in a bigger event, but that was amazing. He was dressed just like his dad, same ring gear, had him come in. He even did the thing that Josh does when he goes through the ropes, which was, I mean, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And what a storyline this was. Going from thinking that Josh got booted out of Impact or left Impact Wrestling, comes back and then has this match with Moose, and it was an amazing match. They went back and forth and back and forth, and again, 10 German suplexes from Josh to Moose, and he still kept going. Moose with some spears to Josh. Moose put Josh off of an exposed turnbuckle twice. Twice. And he still kept going. Tore his headgear off, which we all know. And if you know Josh's story, Josh has that thing with his ear. And that's the reason why he wears the headgear. Tore it off and just whipped it at Moose. And then Moose was kind of biting on the side of his head. I mean, it was an absolutely amazing match. And listen, congratulations. Well deserved to Josh Alexander, who is the Impact Wrestling champion. On top of Impact Wrestling now, re-signed with Impact Wrestling. He is now the face of that company. Well deserved. Congrats to him, and congrats, of course, to Jade and his family as well, Jeff.
Yes. He's the face of Impact Wrestling, and it's well deserved, well earned, and he won the X Division Championship at Rebellion last year.
He did.
So to book in that's quite a year to have. So but the storyline, 6 months in the making.
Yep.
And this had the big fight feel. If you got into it, you were invested. Last night had you on the edge of your seat.
Yep.
There were times when I was watching that match that I know I wasn't talking. I was so glued to the action. I'm like, oh my God, what's next? What's going to happen next? It was just a brilliant match that they put on. Great job by both. Josh is the guy now, and I'm happy for him. Let's see what happens next for Moose with this injury that had been reported. How much time he needs to take off and get back healthy. But I want people to really, really understand how great Moose was as a champion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a heel champion, you can't ask for much more than for everyone. Think about this. A successful heel champion, in my opinion, is one where they could throw a broomstick out and you would want the broomstick to beat your champion because that's how much of a dirtbag they can be.
Yeah.
And people wanted, I mean, you remember the brief Heath feud that he had and at Sacrifice.
Yes.
With him and Heath, people were cheering on Heath, wanting Heath to be the one to dethrone him.
Yep.
So it just goes to show how great he was. What they did with the family dynamic in this feud was tremendous.
Yep.
And then to have that all pay off last night, Jade putting the belt around his waist, that was remarkable. And then someone started cutting onions when his son came down.
Oh, absolutely.
Because what a moment that was.
Absolutely. It was listen, it was just a great show. And like I said, if you haven't, go and check it out. It's been so good. If I told you guys a while back, if you guys go back to the Hernandez interview, he said that Impact needed someone to carry Impact. I feel like Hernandez was talking about Josh. Could be. We asked Hernandez, I think, about Josh during that interview that we had with him. Give Scott D'Amore his flowers. Impact is still here in a great show. Yeah, Scott's doing a great job too. Don't take anything away from what he's doing. So don't sleep on Impact. We tell everybody that all the time. The two of us, listen, I'm sitting there calling the match, and Jeff is there, and he's going, come on, Josh, on the screen. And I'm like, so see, and that's what he's talking about.
And I never do that. I don't openly cheer for one person or another. I try to, stay straight down the middle. But I was so invested in Josh winning the title that, it just got to that point where, I'm rooting for Josh.
Now you all got to come out and watch on Thursday to see what's next, because who is going to challenge him. So we'll see. All right. All right, well, there you go. That is our opening segment. That is all of the breaking news from the week and the other news that we had as well. So I believe we are at that time. And you know what time it is, Jeff.
Let's roll it then.
Roll it.
The airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about.
Now you're going to hear them. Oh man, we during our show last night, we were talking about the show tonight, and we mentioned airing of grievances, and somebody chimed in. They said, "What is it, Festivus on your show?" And we're like, "There you go.
There you go.
That's exactly what it is." So it is time for the airing of grievances. We have kind of similar ones, but we're going to go in different directions with them tonight. So, okay. So mine this week, there are places and things, and I guess I'll go to myself with this because I, along with this podcast that I do with Jeff, I have another show that I do, as does Jeff with the horror show, and I do an 80s show. But I also have a group that I run on Facebook, which is all like geek oriented stuff and superheroes and things of that, like sci-fi stuff too. And one of the things, or actually I should say two, one of the rules that I always come up with for whatever those things are that I happen to be doing is there are two things that should never cross over into entertainment. Two things: politics and religion. Two things. And if you guys are younger, keep this in your mind because it's a good life lesson too. No matter where you are, if you're at a party, if you're in a group of people somewhere just eating dinner, if you want to stay away from getting into arguments, stay away from those two things. And I'll just say that flat out, because you're better off not saying something and it's just, especially when they don't involve that. Okay. So where I'm going with this, I didn't watch. Okay. So I didn't watch, but something was brought to my attention that happened on a show. And to me, and I'll just give you a little bit of background about myself, and I said this in my tweet that I had. I grew up Catholic, very much so. My mom was extremely Catholic. We went to a Greek Catholic church when I was younger, and Greek Catholic is like Catholic supersized because when you go to a mass, and I barely remember this now because I was a very young man. My father would, they'd take us, we'd sit up in the balcony, and my dad would a lot of times let me go down in the basement where the soda machine is and give me a quarter for a bottle of soda because it would go for hours. The masses in those churches, you were there for 2 hours sometimes. And to have a younger kid there, which I was probably, my gosh, 6, 7 years old, maybe. And to have a young person in a mass for that long. And the reason they're so long is because they sing everything. So as I grew up and I started going to, the other church that we went to, you have the same type of mass. It's almost a formatted thing. But when they did it, they sang all of the entire whole service. But I was an altar boy. So I did that. I went to what they call catechism classes. I went to Bible study in the summer. I then became a lector. A lector is a person who stands up where the priest is and reads from the book and does the Gospels, and then the priest will do his homily. I did that. So I was involved, a lot with the church growing up. And that's how I was raised. And a lot of you guys and stuff would probably get that same way. And you're given that by your parents, and it's passed down to you. And now, I've since, when I married my wife, I changed to, my wife's religion, which a lot of times, men will do that depending on, when they get married. And so I went to Protestant, and basically Protestant is very similar to Catholicism, except it's just I always kind of say it's not as rigid, maybe a little more laid back. So that said, I heard that this thing happened on a wrestling show. And again, I'm nowhere near what I used to be when I was that involved with the church and stuff like that. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I am this big, huge religious person, because I'd be lying if I did. I can't say that. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite about it. All I'm saying here, and if you know the show I'm talking about, I'm not going to call it out by name. You guys have probably seen it, or a lot of you know what I'm talking about. It happened on a Friday. I'll just say that. It happened and this particular Friday was a religious thing. It was a religious holiday. It was Good Friday for Catholics and other religions. And if you don't know the whole story behind it, it was the day that Christ died. So it's a pretty important day. And I can remember when I was going to church, my mom would take us to the church. We would sit in church between the hours of 12 and 3. You'd have to go and you have to sit in church and do your prayers. And you'd have this thing called Stations of the Cross. And then they also would say that was quiet hours, because those were the hours, according to the Bible and stuff, that Christ had died, between the hours of 12 and 3. And you also, and this killed me as a child, you couldn't do anything. There was no TV, there was no radio, there was no music, there was basically all you could do is kind of just open your room and sit. You couldn't hang with your friends, you couldn't go outside. It was rough. It was rough when you were a child. So just some background on that holiday, that religious, not holiday, but that religious day, background on that if you don't know what that is. What I saw that was done was in completely poor taste. Very, very, very poor taste. And I don't care. To me, it came off as being shock value. That's what it came off to me as. Now, some of you are going to combat this, and you're going to say, but what about Stephanie on a cross with the Undertaker? I get it. Couple things. One, different times. Very, very different times back then. That stuff today, no way it flies. No way it flies. No way. Okay. But to me, whether you wanted it as shock value, whether you just didn't care, there's still a lot of people who celebrate that day. Not really mourn that day is a better word. And consider that a very holy day. And if I'm writing that script, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it. It almost came off like it was poking fun. To me, that's my opinion. I could be way off base, but that's my opinion. When I watched it, and I watched it 2 or 3 times, it almost came off as if it was poking fun. Not smart. Not smart. You're alienating a group of people, and it's not smart to do. I get it. Things changed. Things are like I said, they are very different from when I was growing up, religion-wise and things like that. Very, very different. But I still think it was done in poor taste. Any other day, they chose to do that on a Saturday. Okay. Chose to do it on a Wednesday. Today, just not smart. So I guess what I'm saying is, at least in this day and age, and years ago, I get it, right? I get it. It happened, the Stephanie thing, the other stuff. You could say the same thing about that. I get it. It doesn't happen anymore. It's a different time now. And you won't see that kind of stuff happen anymore. So And I think that's best. Politics and religion, leave it out. It doesn't belong. It doesn't need to be in wrestling. We have enough of it in the news every single day. And there are a lot of people who take them both very seriously. So you don't need to do it. And there you go. So that's my grievance for the week. Go ahead, Jeff. You're up.
All right. Yeah, I mean you nailed it. I will be full transparency here. I know a lot of people bring up the Undertaker stuff. I'll be real honest with you. I didn't like that stuff either. Because of my upbringing, I didn't like that. I mean, and here's where I am with it. I know some people don't mind it, and that's your choice. That's your right. It is what it is. But it just, to me, you can be dark without being disrespectful. The Undertaker stuff I felt was disrespectful. I didn't particularly care. I think it's because of the day that it was that it was kind of striking.
Yeah.
For me, but I know some people didn't mind it, and I know others defended it with, which that's kind of what I want to talk about is we just have to be respectful of people's opinions and upbringings and their beliefs. Not everyone feels the same. There are some the crazy thing about this is we all watch the same stuff. Like we all watched Rebellion last night, the ones that joined us last night. We all watched Rebellion. And each of us has a different takeaway from that show than the other person. And that's what makes watching entertainment stuff so unique, because everybody has their own thoughts. And today, whereas before you just kind of, stood around a water cooler and talked to people about it, today you've got things, devices in your hand that you can tell the entire world how you felt about it. And sometimes that's a great thing. But other times, not so much.
Yeah.
So my thing is, just be respectful. I'm gonna be respectful of the people that enjoyed it, that didn't mind it, because that's your belief system. How I grew up may not be how you grew up. But at the same time, if I didn't like it, I just ask that you be respectful of my beliefs and the reason why I didn't like it, and don't try to make it don't try to make it about, oh well, but you were okay when WWE did this. No.
Yeah.
Did you ask me that? Because if you asked me that, you'd hear a real opinion. I didn't like that then, and I don't like that kind of stuff now. But it's all about being respectful, and it seems like a lot of times these days people can't just agree to disagree like
That's
that.
true.
I appreciate a good conclusion to an argument that says, you know what, agree to disagree,
Yeah.
because it means that you have your view, I have my view, but we can respect each other in the end. That we can respect each other. So that's all. That's kind of all I wanted to add to it, is that there are people who are not going to be fans of certain things, just like the whole idea of some people like, you know, certain types of matches while other people don't. Some people enjoy the death matches, other people don't. But I just say be respectful. It goes a long way, and a lot of times you can avoid the headache of a Twitter or social media troll.
Yeah, absolutely. Very true. And if everybody just voiced an opinion and, just was like, I don't know. I guess what you see a lot today is people just feel the need that they have to defend their opinions and argue it until they're blue in the face. And you're no matter what, all you're going to do is you're just going to get yourself frustrated by doing that, because the people that are seeing you get upset about it are just going to be like, they're just going to keep egging you on. And I found that out years and years ago with my geek group, because people it's just silly. Like, it's just like Jeff said, okay, we just don't agree. And that's okay.
Yeah, fine.
There's nothing wrong with that.
That's a great place to be in sometimes, because, I mean, we don't always have to agree on everything. And that's
Very
the
true.
beauty of it.
Very true. Very true. All right, so there you go. There is the airing of grievances segment for this week. I'm sure that the next time we come back on with this, we will find something else to grievance about. And I know that's a segment that a lot of you guys like. So there we go. That's our grievances for the week. And I believe now we are going to do debates. Play along in the chat with this segment. Let us know what you guys choose for the sell or no sell segment, which is coming up now. All right, Jeff, what is topic number 1?
Topic number 1. It was a good decision to have Josh Alexander win the Impact title at Rebellion.
We had some people in the chat going about that yesterday during the show. And is it time? A lot of people were saying that they were thinking that that some kind of swerve was coming and Josh wasn't going to actually win. So we kind of got in a little bit of this last night, but was it a good decision to have him win? Yes. And so I'm going to say yes. So I'm going to sell this. It was a good decision. I love it. Yes. I kind of said last night that I think you're at the point in the story where right now there has to be a culmination and a finish to this, because they went on and did what they did, and like Jeff was saying earlier, and described it, got the family involved and all that kind of stuff. It would have been almost silly not to have him win at this point. Plus, everybody kind of knew that Moose was injured and stuff as well. So that was back there also. But I think, yeah, without a doubt, it was time. We talked about this, Conrad saying yes. We talked about this with Conrad on our show the other night too. But it's absolutely time. There's sometimes when you can go on and on and on and keep doing a storyline and extend it, and then at that point it gets old and stale. So there was no other place to go with this. I think it was a great time to do it, and yes, it was a good decision. Conrad saying yes, Mark saying yes. Back then, can't be like today. Imagine a stage with a rock star, right? Rip a bat head like Ozzy. Yeah, times were different. Sean says sell. Alicia says sell. You guys are awesome, and I have a lot of respect for you all. Thank you, Shane. Appreciate that. Let's see. What else are people saying here? Sell. All my favorites finally won on a pay-per-view. Shane says sell. RK Shuttlesworth says sell. It all depends where they go from here. Of course, Jeff says sell. Larry says sell. Sell says Big Dan. Jeff, it seems like we have a consensus in our chat.
Yes, and I'm not going to mess that up. So
there you go.
Yeah, it was time. It was time. No question for me that it was time. Even if Moose was not injured, I would say now if Moose was not injured, you could argue that Slammiversary being back in Nashville would be the perfect moment for this to happen, but that's not the case. I think Josh was very deserving of this moment, so yeah, I all day long selling this, and now maybe we can hold him to the promise.
Right.
Back on the show when he wins the championship. He did not specify, so he's now won 2 different championships.
He has. Yeah, he has. So hopefully we can get him back on, and obviously we'd love to have him and Jade back on. He's gonna be a busy dude, no doubt. When you win a big title like that, you'll be on everything. But hopefully he will have an hour to spare at some point in time, and we can get him back on our show to talk all about the journey, because that's really what I want to hear. Like the journey behind this whole thing is fascinating. So I'd love to hear that. So Jason says sell as well. All right, what's next?
WWE should officially unify the titles. Make it a real deal. Make it the real thing.
Well, obviously, we went into WrestleMania thinking that was going to happen, and there were even people out on the socials saying that they made a unified title that they were saying was making the rounds and was going on out there, and of course, never saw it. Roman comes out carrying 2 belts, or Paul Heyman rather comes out carrying 2 belts. So, wow, should they unify them? What we know now, I'm going to say no. And my reason for it, so I'm going to no sell it. My reason for it is because of the whole thing with Cody. And I don't think it would make sense. So we all know he came in and he delivered that big speech about, winning that title and stuff like that for his father. And that was what he was doing. I don't think that Cody would make sense necessarily to win both titles. I think it would almost be better to have him win one of them, kind of like what Deonna Purrazzo is doing from him, and then kind of stay on Raw. It's pretty evident, first of all, that Roman isn't crossing over. He's not going to Raw. He's staying on SmackDown. And that would lead me to believe that Fox doesn't want him to leave SmackDown either. So if that's the case, then if you're going to have Cody on Raw, it would only make sense for him to have that belt if Roman's not going to cross over from show to show. And it just may not be that easy to do in today's world to have him go to both every single week. So that's my reasoning behind it. I just don't think, and if you want to have him continue on this journey with this title, which he's up to 600 and some days, I think now. If you want to have him continue on up until The Rock shows up, if that's going to be the case, then it just seems like you'd want to have him with the title also. So yeah, so I'm going to no sell that. What about you?
That's a good question, and I was kind of thinking sell. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now. So I guess I'm going to stick with it just to be the contrarian.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
I'll say sell because I don't think you need 2 titles. I think with the roster size, you can have whoever your champion is go to both. I think it it makes that title a lot more prestigious in my opinion. But then it also puts more of an emphasis on your mid card titles. So I think it was interesting them WWE making the change with the US title. I've been really enjoying Ricochet's run as the IC champion. I've been enjoying that. So, it puts more of an emphasis on them, but yeah, I mean, just have them go back and forth at this point.
Okay. Chris says sell, but you make a good point. You don't need 2 belts. Bianca versus Charlotte can be interesting, in my opinion, though. And the woman definitely needs a woman's mid card belt. Sell, keep the brand split and let the champions appear on both shows. It gives us a deeper set of challengers, and Raw needs a rating spike, and it seems to be the better of the 2 shows lately. Yeah, that's been kind of turned around all of a sudden. Raw has been the better one of the 2. Yeah, it's kind of weird. That kind of flip-flopped. The brand split doesn't exist, says Conrad. Jason says sell. Do I want one champion who is only Brock or Roman? LOL, says RK Shuttlesworth. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to change.
Yeah.
I think the plans may be a little bit different, especially with Cody coming in.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think Cody may be the one to dethrone. I'm gonna say it here. I think Cody might be the one to dethrone Roman.
Yeah, yeah. You just wonder when it's going to happen, like how soon it would be. But yeah, no, I would agree. I think that that's definitely out there, and that's probably where it's going to go. All right, what is our last topic for this
All right,
segment?
last topic, and we got to thank Conrad for
Yeah,
that. We had to talk about this. Casual wrestling fans don't exist anymore. Sell or no sell? I like this topic.
oh, man, this is an interesting one. Um, wow, I, I'm gonna, mm, I'm gonna sell it. I'm gonna sell it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
We're in a different time, and you know, I we just are with social media and with everything else that's out there. Um, yeah, I think it makes it easier to be a casual fan of almost anything because you don't necessarily even have to watch something religiously anymore to to know what's going on. You could read up on things and not even have to watch it. So I think it makes it easier. But do I think there are? I, I don't see it personally. So maybe I guess I'm gonna know or I'm gonna sell it with a caveat because it's only in my little world that I see, and I don't see a lot of it. Friends and stuff that I know and everything like that. They're either all in or they're not in at all. And I think a lot of it changed and this was maybe pre AEW, but a lot of it changed when the only game in town was really WWE. And, you know, there wasn't I mean, the indies and stuff were always there. And then some of the smaller companies, TNA back in the day and things like that. But, for most people, WWE was really the only game in town, and I think a lot of people got turned off by that because they didn't have choices. Now you have a ton of choices, almost too much out there. So, but yeah, I don't really think that the quote unquote casual fan is around. I don't think so. I'm gonna sell it. I'm gonna absolutely sell it. Conrad says no sell. They exist, but they don't matter like 20 years ago. Okay. Brandon Lewis says old school wrestling is back. Agreed. Casual fans don't exist. Either you follow it or you don't. Like boxing or UFC or other sports, consolidate your hardcore base is the recipe now. Jeff says topic is surprised that wrestling doesn't exist without Sean Ross, Sap Joe, and Jeff. Next week we need it on Sunday. No sell. I think there are still people who may know Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, and The Rock, but don't know Okada, Hook, or Danhausen. But I think that hardcore fans dominate wrestling social media. That's a good point. Man, maybe that's what you see the most of. So yeah, that's a good point. Not all people are like us. Some just turn it on and watch and aren't on social media a lot. True. All right, Jeff, go ahead.
I'm gonna share a little test. It's called the auntie test, and the auntie test is if I show my auntie a picture of someone, does she know who that person is? And I can say that growing up, if I showed her a picture of Hulk Hogan, she could say that's that Hulk guy.
Mm,
Or she could say that's that Roddy dude that plays the bagpipes or has the bagpipe stuff. Um, there's a few things. I think that casual wrestling fans still exist, but they only exist for the big moments.
mm,
They only exist for the WrestleManias. Um, that's or if something's going on in their hometown. and they have to take the kids. That's when they exist. I think that there's a good thing with having as much wrestling as we have, and it is a negative because everything is so spread thin, in my opinion, that at times wrestling can be oversaturated. So you've kind of distorted your numbers. And if you look at the numbers, and I know a lot of people who aren't television executives somehow, for some reason, care a lot about ratings now. But if you look at the ratings, think about what Raw used to draw back in the day compared to what they draw now. It's like it's a stark difference. You think about AEW, and the big thing is 1 million viewers, and they're kind of teetering on that line. But back in the day, AEW will probably be at 2 million viewers,
True.
approaching 3. So I think they still exist, but I think they're only around for those big fight moments, because we're in such a microwave society now that everyone wants the big payoff immediately. And if I don't have to get involved in that storyline, like you mean I got to watch this soap opera week to week to tell me what's going on? No, I just want to show up for the event, see the cool entrances, the cool outfits, and all of that stuff. But you know, that's just kind of where it is. I think, but I don't think as many people. The other point that I want to make of that part, though, is that the stars that we used to have aren't the stars of today. Today's stars are a lot different. They're more accessible, whereas the stars of our time weren't as accessible. Now I can read thoughts that Roman Reigns has on his Twitter if he decides to post. Whereas before, I didn't know what the heck Ric Flair was doing other than kiss stealing and wheeling dealing and all of that stuff. Other than his promos, I didn't know what was going on. So I just think that the stars of today are a lot different, and we don't. And I know the Roman fans are gonna hate me for saying this. Roman isn't The Rock. He's not there yet, and until he makes it there, we're still gonna have that. He's a star, but is he on that level of stardom? And I would say not yet. And I don't see many people at that level at the moment being able to stake that claim and get the aunties to recognize them. I mean, Bianca Belair is recognizable because she's got the long hair and her demeanor and all that stuff. But are these people easily recognizable? And that would be my argument to that. Is I think that's probably another reason why the casual wrestling fans don't make as much of an impact as they used to.
That's a good point. I mean, wrestling back when I was growing up, the wrestlers were very like these larger than life personalities, very, very, like Jeff said, because they're accessible now on Twitter, and sometimes they'll even talk back to you or give a like to a post. Back then they weren't. And I mean, you were lucky to maybe get an autograph at a wrestling show, and that was pretty lucky. And again, you had all these larger than life people: Roddy Piper, Hogan, Flair, just these people who were just so the flamboyance and the Macho Man. They were all that kind of a larger than life personality, and you don't get that much of that anymore. And when you're talking about Roman, you're right. I mean, how can you even look at Roman and say the Rock is probably one of the most flamboyant personalities in wrestling you'll ever see,
ever?
And to have Roman even get to that level is probably an impossibility. He might get up there, but that's a good point. That's a good point. We'll have to have at some point too is a discussion, or maybe it could be a topic here, but a discussion about social media. And is social media killing the wrestling business? We'll have to have that at some point, because
Yeah, we will.
I think that needs to be addressed, because we probably both have some things to say about that. And I mentioned it on our show, but interesting topic. And thanks to Conrad for that one, because
Yeah.
he gave us the idea. So I think they still exist. Jeff mentioned something about big stuff. WWE and wrestling in general bought some casual viewers because of one man, Roman Reigns. They all want to see what's going to happen. Different times, but few stars are on that caliber to be on that level, says Deanna. Yep. I don't think you get casual fans. Most wrestling fans who watch wrestling watch WWE or AEW. Some watch Impact. You might get some who just watch clips on YouTube or Twitter. I watch all wrestling myself. That's it. A lot has been lost on the social media age. There's too many distractions. Netflix, HBO Max, Marvel, DC, anime, music, etc., social media. Just happy pro wrestling as an industry still exists in 2022. Let's see what else. As a kid, was looking forward to the weekends to see wrestling. Times have changed. Undertaker won't break character or interview until now. Now it's a nightly time waster, says Tony. Yes, don't tell anybody when he came back, which is a good thing. There was still an element of surprise. Yeah, that's true. The Undertaker is done as a character in the ring, so Mark can be himself. Is surprised because of Sean Ross Sapp. Social media is killing humanity altogether, in my humble opinion. Well, we'll get that as a topic for sure. All right.
Yeah, we'll get to the wrestling journalists too. I mean,
Yes.
we
Yeah.
do talk about dirt sheets and stuff like that on here quite a bit, and we do talk about the journalists. I think again, it goes back to the microwave society and people wanting to know now. Like spoilers, there are people that live for spoilers for movies.
Yep.
People want spoilers for wrestling too. They want it because we went so long without knowing what was behind the curtain, going on behind the curtain, and now it seems like you can't log on to Twitter if you're a wrestling fan and you're following the wrestling Twitter sphere that that you're not hit in the face with some type of spoiler somewhere, someone posting a picture of a taping or something like that. So that's a good topic to get into one day.
We live in a very instant gratification society. You just want it's almost like Willy Wonka. I want it now. Don't care how, I want it now. And unfortunately, yeah, and it's out there, and you can get it in most cases if you look hard enough. And to me, I think it ruins it. I really do. All right. Well, there you go. That's our debate segment for the week. And I believe next up, we are going to book a wrestler, I think.
Yes, we are. We're going to book a wrestler. And it might be one that we saw last night, Joe.
It could be. All right, we're going to book a wrestler. This is our book a wrestler segment. Again, you guys can play along. This week, we're going to book Trey Miguel. Now, Trey, of course, coming off that match last night, he has been the X Division champion. He lost the title. So we were kind of discussing names to throw out there after the show last night, and Trey's name came up because it's almost like, where do you go with him now? So he lost the X Division championship. Whether or not they're going to have him, have a rematch with Ace or something like that, we don't know, because sometimes that doesn't happen. So where are we going with Trey Miguel going forward? So Jeff, go ahead. You can start.
I personally, and I'm all about redemption stories and, elevating in that way. I think it's time now for us to see Ace Austin and Speedball Mike Bailey.
Yeah.
So I would be inclined to move Trey Miguel away from that X Division title picture. And I think it all depends on what you think of Trey Miguel as an in-ring performer, what do you think of him as an overall superstar? So I think what I would do is I would have him get frustrated here, and I would have him start to go into some of these other one-on-one matches, and get involved like you've seen Steve Macklin get involved. That match for Steve Macklin last night did wonders for his trajectory with Impact Wrestling.
Yep.
So I think Trey can be no different there. I think you can take Trey and you can put him in a program with a Chris Sabin, or you can put him in a program with a Chris Bay. Have him do some stuff. Um, have him do some stuff with Cardona or with Brian Myers. Um, have him start to really turn and get upset and use that fuel. And I think if built properly, because someone mentioned earlier, what do you do next with Josh? I think if built properly, you could have a heel Trey Miguel take on a Josh when you don't have that matchup of Josh and Jay White, which I want I want Jay White and Josh, but this is about Trey Miguel right now. So I would even have a program with Trey eventually with Josh, but I think he's got to go. I want to have him go up against Chris Bay, Chris Sabin, Jay White. If you can get him in there, heck, have him go up against Macklin. Um, there's some different things that you can do with Trey Miguel because I do think that he is I think both Trey Miguel and Ace Austin are the future. So Josh is the right now. And I think a couple years from now, guys like Trey Miguel and Ace Austin, if they're still around, they're the future of what that Impact World Championship looks like. So I think that's the kind of trajectory. I wouldn't put him in a tag team. I would have him continue on his singles run, but I would have him, kind of make that turn a little bit. Someone brought up, Larry Bongo brought up having him with the returning Sammy. The stuff that he was doing with Sammy last year
Mm-hmm.
was great because it was showing a different side of him. I would explore that a little bit more and see if I could make him turn just a little bit more, get a little more sadistic, a little more fired up. So he's more of a tweener and not such a squeaky clean guy. I want him to be dirty. And that's what I want to see him do. And eventually, I think you can put him into a match with Josh, into a program with Josh, and see where he goes. The other thing that you could do with him too is have him go after that digital media championship. Um,
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
another thing that you could have him do. But just a few ideas
Him
for
and Card him and Card him and Cardona. Yeah. I'd be okay with that. Yeah, look, I think it all depends on how you want to go with him. I mean, obviously he's a face. He's a big Spider-Man fan, and a lot of times he comes out dressed up in that Spider-Man gear. And last night it looked like he was wearing like something that came out of like Anti-Venom, the comic book. But it depends on how you want to go with him. Do you want to move him to become, because now he lost his title, you want to move him over and change that up and make him be a little bit bitter? Make him get a little bit darker. And in that respect, like what Jeff had mentioned about Sammy would be probably a smart idea because they did revisit that before. And Sammy was trying to get him to go down that path. And change him into a different personality, into a heel. So if you want to explore that, yes, I would go for that. I was going to say, I don't know if they would maybe put him into the tag team division again, because of course he was in that with the Rascals. So, I mean, then you got to start to think, well, who would a good partner be for him to kind of hook up with if you want to do something like that with him, and where you go from there. Coog says, is he a future challenger to Josh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like Jeff said, I mean, he's a young guy, so that's one of the guys that you're going to consider to be your future, like Jeff was saying too with Ace Austin. So Yeah, I mean, sure, somewhere down the road. I have a lot of crazy booking scenarios for him. One would involve him joining Bullet Club and Chris Bay becoming tag team champions. I him and Chris Bay. I was going to say that, but I don't know if they would have him in Bullet Club and put another member in there. But yeah, that would be awesome if they did that.
Why not? Because
Yeah.
because you got members in WWE, you got them in AEW. Obviously, you have them in New Japan. Why not have two people representing it? I think to that point, if they don't re-sign the Good Brothers, that may happen because then you would still have two representatives of the Bullet Club in Impact.
Yeah, that's a great point too. The other involves him going to NXT. Well, MSK did lose a member, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
And he was there at one point, and then he left. We all don't really know the whole story behind that, but yeah, okay. Personally, though, I think I would like, I think, to see him as a heel. And yeah, I mean, hey, if he joins the Bullet Club, that's perfectly fine. That's right up that alley. Can you imagine him and Chris Bay teaming up? Wow, what a team they would make. Both of them super athletic, and it would be an amazing match to watch them have. Trey joins what are you talking, Honor No More with Eddie Edwards. Joins the Bullet Club to make Bay angry. Trey Miguel versus Matt Cardona for the belt. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can go. He doesn't have any ties with Ring of Honor, I don't think. So I don't know if that would fit in particular. But I do like the thing with Sammy, and I do like the suggestion that Conrad gave as well with the thing with the Bullet Club. I think him and Bay would make an absolutely amazing tag team. So yeah. So let's see what else people are saying here. Trey challenges Josh at Hard to Kill next year in 3 stages of Impact. 30-minute Iron Man match, ladder match, street fight. Good Lord.
Wow.
Trey joining a AAA heel stable and repping AAA and Impact would be cool. Just thinking outside the box. Well, that's kind of what this is. Trey joins with yeah. Either way, it's going to be interesting to see where they go with him now. And I'm sure we'll probably find out as soon as this coming Thursday, going forward, as to see what is next for Trey Miguel. One other piece of news, and I totally forgot about this at the beginning of the show, but there has been news also about Ali today. And now they're saying, after all this goings on and all this time, that apparently WWE has something for him. So they're going to try to work him back. So we'll see. We'll see. I forgot about that. I wanted to mention that in the news, and I forgot all about it. That was the other person that they were talking about today. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, dude.
No, it's interesting.
Yeah, very. If you have a wrestler that you guys would like to see us do a book a wrestler for, and it doesn't matter if it's a current wrestler, if it's not a current wrestler, throw it out there in the comments below this video and let us know, and we can take a look at that, and we could always pick who you have chosen as a future book a wrestler for the show. So, all right. I believe we are at the time for favorite moments of the week.
Yes, we are. Favorite moments of the week.
All right,
I feel
Jeff.
like this segment needs to have a sponsor, favorite moments of the week. Brought to you by
Palmolive.
Yes.
Oh, and by the way, someone was mentioning, they mentioned who said it? Someone was saying the song I Want It All, and Kenneth. When Joe said I Want It All, I thought of the song. Now, yes, I know what song you're talking about. It's a Queen song. It's actually my favorite Queen song that they've ever done. I Want It All and I Want It Now. Great song. Yeah, absolutely. It was on one of their last albums that they ever did too. So it's an awesome song. It's one of those songs that kind of get you fired up when you listen to it. So, all right. Favorite moments, Jeff. What's your number 3?
Oh man. So I'm gonna go completely left field with this. Number 3 moment for me is Ezekiel passing his lie detector test. That's what I'm gonna go with. Because why? It was fun and I enjoyed it. So
almost like make like a fun themed one of these too. My number 3, and pretty similar reasons for yours, just a different thing. Which we're gonna actually talk about this next segment, so it's a segue. But and again, some people really had fun with this, and some people blasted it and said it was the worst thing they've ever seen. The wedding from last week. I cracked up laughing when they switched couples. When they went, when they were over, they were with each other, going to get married, and all of a sudden the guys were with the guys, girls were with the girls, and the look on the guys' faces when I'm like, oh my god, it was hilarious. And again, the fact that R-Truth resided over the whole thing, that man is just comedy gold. And every time he's on that. Now, the only thing I would have wanted to see that I did not get with that, and the payoff for me for that segment would have been if R-Truth, so he carried her out of there, and then in the next segment, you got those two in the back. R-Truth puts her down. There's a referee there. He pins her, and he gets his title back. After all of that big affair, it was all leading up to R-Truth getting that 24/7 title back. That's the payoff I wanted there. Didn't get it, but that's kind of what I was hoping would happen, because I'm like, oh my God, you went through this whole thing for this past how many weeks just to get your baby back, just to get that 24/7 title back to R-Truth. So that's would have been the great payoff for me. But I thought that was priceless. And them going back and forth, I thought it was hilarious. So great stuff. And again, like Jeff said, sometimes it's good to laugh, man. And people were saying, oh, it went on too long. Oh, it went on. It's like, dude, you have a 3-hour show. Like, what are you going to use to spend the 3 hours? People bitch and moan because it's too long of a show the way it is on Raw. So, yeah. All right. Conrad says, Hook finally speaks because of Danhausen. Yes, that's a good one. Sting Bleacher Dive was nice, says Tony. You're not allowed to have fun, Jeff, says Tony. Personally, I like Trey the way he is now. Question I have about Jonathan Gresham. I know what you think of respect in wrestling. You think Jonathan, but however, sometimes I can't tell is he a heel or a face. When he was in ROH, I thought of him as the heel, but here in Impact, I think he's a face. I always saw him as the face, Mark. Jeff, I don't know about you.
Yeah. It's all about the pure. He's all about the pure aspect of wrestling. So
yeah. Kenneth Paul says, how to book a wrestler, MJF. Yeah, okay. MJF is just a fantastic heel. All right. So, what is your number 2, Jeff?
All right, my number 2 moment of the week, and this is off the radar just a little bit. But if you get a chance, there was an intergender match on a card last weekend. Swerve Strickland, formerly known as Swerve Scott, had Swerve's house, his card. And on that card, it was Swerve Strickland versus Athena. Athena, formerly known as Ember Moon. They had a match that tore the house down. That's what they did. And the match is out there on YouTube. So if people want to check that match out, go check it out. It's 25 minutes of goodness. I'm looking at the clip right now just because I wanted to see how long it was, but it's 25 minutes of goodness. You will not be disappointed. If you want to see what a really good match looks like, despite intergender, whatever, just a really good match, that's a good match to watch. So that's my number 2.
I think we're getting to a point with intergender where you should start seeing more of it. I really do. I know people look back and they say, oh my God, the stuff with Tessa was a disaster. I think we're beyond that. And I think we've got athletes in wrestling companies. I mean, Jordan Grace is one who stands out. Jordan Grace had amazing matches with Matt Cardona. Amazing matches. And I think depends on who you put up with who. Some people are saying that Charlotte, I guess, was interviewed about doing intergender, because where does a person like Charlotte really have left to go? What does she have left to prove? She's done it all. She's captured every title there is. How many times? Where can she go? And then someone mentioned, I don't remember where I heard this, but someone mentioned Charlotte and Randy Orton. Could you imagine? Randy Orton, as good as he is, and then wrestling Charlotte. Oh my God. That would be one for the ages. So, yeah, I think Bully Ray could have said it, Chris, because I listen to Busted Open quite a bit. It might be. It very well might be. But, oh my gosh. And I think there should be more of it. I really do. I think there should be more of it. So, and that's just more proof. I'm going to have to watch that match. I didn't see it. It's been a minute since we've been together. My top three are Cody versus Seth at Mania, RK Bro versus the Street Profits with Tez shining, Josh Alexander winning the Impact title. Jonathan says Josh versus Ishii at Under Siege. Josh wins at Rebellion, says Conrad is his number 2. Josh finally wins Impact title, says the Coug is his number 2. Josh wins the World Champion. Street Profits versus RK Bro. With the Usos tease Profits heel turn. Charlotte wants a punt kick. Josh wins the Impact title. So my number 2. Oh man. I'm gonna go with the boy, this is tough too. I'm gonna go with well, I'm just going to go with my heart because that's what I usually do with these. I'm going to go with the match from yesterday with Tasha and Rosemary. Again, I went in the match fully expecting Tasha to win. And then when it turned around in the middle and I had that little segment there with the green mist with Rosemary and everything like that. Plus, I love their appearances in that. I don't know what they were going for, but Tasha Steelz with the lion makeup. And then Rosemary with her different outfit, different look that she had as well. But that particular moment got me like, oh my God, she's gonna win, she's gonna win, she's gonna win, and then of course she didn't. But again, for me, it was almost kind of like a thing that where if she won, I would have marked out. So it was this close to a mark out moment for me. But that's definitely one for me because yeah, you guys all know. I make it no secret. I love Rosemary, so there's that. Edge and Priest promo says Gus Tony Khan announcing the AEW New Japan pay-per-view, Cody and R-Truth's wedding. The AEW New Japan Forbidden Door partnership in June. Rosemary had a new look, says Kenneth. Yes, she did. All right, Jeff. I think I kind of know where the number one's going to be, but go ahead.
Yeah. Number one for me, Josh Alexander.
Yeah.
Winning the Impact World title. It was a payoff that honestly felt like old school wrestling, a big time championship match build. You got the family involved. There's just so much to love about that program that they just had, and they gave it time. And there were ebbs and flows, and they didn't beat on the drum the entire time. They didn't give us Moose and Josh every single week, but they planted seeds here and there until things became really clear that that's what was going to happen. And I mean, we had doubts that Josh was even going to stay there. His name was being mentioned on other programs.
Yes, it was.
So it's like, is he even going to stay? But we got it. And man, what a tremendous payoff it was last night. So congratulations to Josh. Congratulations to Impact Wrestling.
Yeah.
For putting on a great card and putting on a great show.
Absolutely. Noob & Co. says, number 3, Angelina Love debut in NWA, AEW and New Japan, and number 1, Josh Alexander winning the world title. Yeah, that's going to be my number 1 too. We've been anticipating that for so long. And week after week after week, you saw this developing over the course of time. And the story with Josh, we knew that it was culminating or was probably going to culminate here at Rebellion. And when we watched the match, and the match was as good as advertised, it went on for almost a half an hour between these two guys. And it just looked like the two of them, neither one of them wanted to lose. And time after time after time, using their finishers on each other, and the other guy still being able to get out. The personal side of it, and again, Josh bringing his son out to the ring at the beginning, great moments there, and of course, Moose going over to Jade, who was standing out in the crowd. It was just done so well. And he is on top of the world. He's on top of Impact. He's Impact's face right now of the company, as well he should have been when he beat Christian Edge, when he beat Christian to win back when, and Moose kind of stole it out from under him. But hey, I remember a lot of people were saying at that point, like, oh my God, this is horrible. I can't believe Moose did that. I can't believe they took it from, but it all led up to this bigger, longer storyline. And it all worked out really well. And like Jeff said, I echo the statement. Congratulations to Josh. It was an awesome moment for him, and I'm sure one he will never forget. And we'll see what's next for Josh Alexander in Impact Wrestling. And yeah, it was a great show last night. So absolutely. When is Bayley coming back? No idea, Clay. Conrad says AEW and New Japan Forbidden Door. My two favorite companies putting on a dual show. I can't wait. Loved when New Japan and WCW used to do this. Introduced me to Liger, Muda, and Chono. So yeah, of course, the big announcement from Tony Khan about the New Japan show. Yeah, absolutely. Mark says, when it comes to intergender, I agree. Something just came to me about that. Just suppose if a company has enough intergender matches, could there be an intergender championship of some kind? Anything can happen, Mark. Anything can happen. You never know. Won't be long until AAA and AEW do a super show in Mexico City. I know that is something in the near future outside of Triple Mania. You never know. Well, there you go. Those are our favorite moments of the week. Thank you for playing along in the chat. Appreciate that. All right. I believe we are about at that time for the lighter side, I think, Jeff.
Yes, we are.
Lighter side of the ring. I don't see the heckler. He's probably sleeping from all his traveling.
He's probably sleeping.
Yeah, he had a lot of traveling.
I did not include my graphic, and I'm really pissed about this. But I didn't include my graphic on wrestling weddings, and it was a really nice graphic too.
Oh, bummer.
So I'm a little bit upset about that right now.
Well, and I don't know if Jessie has gotten her stuff straightened out. So this may be a very short segment, because Jessie was having issues with the keys and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if she's going to be back for that. So, yeah, we'll see. If not, it's going to be a really, really short segment. But anyway, so this is the time that normally Jessie would be getting ready to deliver some jokes. I don't know if she will or not because of this whole situation with her keys. If not, that's cool. Totally understand. That's more important. But in any case, we will talk about wrestling weddings. And we just mentioned the one that we just got. And we all know that they never go well. Never, ever go well. And this last one was just an absolute crazy, just a bunch of craziness. People getting switched around, things happening, didn't know what was going to come of it at the end. And then people were trying to pin people up. I think the funniest part of that, Jeff, was when, oh my God, I can't even remember now. When he, when he tried to pick up Tamina and pin her, and he got lost in that multi-layered dress that she had.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, you can't even see him. He's gone. So, oh my gosh, how many weddings though? Is there? And you guys can tell us that too. Is there a wedding out there that really sticks out in your mind? I mean, for me, it was probably I think there's probably two of them. Obviously, on a more serious kind was Macho Man and Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And then the other one for me, I think, was the one with Stephanie and Kane. So they're the ones that really stick out because though the Stephanie and Kane one was a complete disaster. And if you guys remember watching Stephanie, like that was back when Stephanie she was almost like, it's almost like kind of equating to what Vicky Guerrero does now with that loud scream. And you could just hear her wail and she would, oh my God, but that was a complete mess. That was an absolute mess. So, but which ones stand out for you?
Man, I'm trying to think back now. Obviously, Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth. That
Yeah,
one that stands out. Um, I'm trying to think. I know Test and Stephanie's wedding where
yeah,
Triple H um interrupted. That was good. That was good.
yep.
Um, trying to think of who else because most of them end up pretty badly. I will say this: Lana and Bobby Lashley,
Mm,
as one of the more recent ones, where
that went on for a while.
people hated that so much.
Oh, they did. They really did.
They hated it so much. So
They really did. Yeah, some of them are just absolute disasters. Can you you go back, and of course it's the humor segment, but can you imagine going back in the day, and there's Stephanie, of course, a much younger Stephanie, and she goes in the back, and her dad comes up to her and says, "Stephanie, you're gonna get married again this week." But Dad, I was just married like 2 months ago. You're gonna get married again. And he just he just keeps putting her out there to just marry these different wrestlers. It's like the life of a daughter of a head of a wrestling company. It's not all easy. It's not all easy. But yeah, weddings it's one of those things. They're like contract signings. They're never gonna end well. 9 times out of 10, they are not gonna end well. You might get that one off every now and then, but yep. Triple H, Test, and Stephanie, Macho Man Elizabeth, Triple H interrupting Test and Stephanie's wedding. Test and Stephanie was so well written. Only family will be allowed ringside, and Triple H comes out. Speaking of dream matches, Pentagon and Ultimate Dragon are facing each other in the Roulette of Death Mask tournament this coming Saturday. Eric Bischoff's wedding, Chuck and Billy, Joe and Jeff. That wouldn't fly today. Bischoff's makeup was tremendous for that segment. The funny wedding when Dreamer said that the guy got shot. Oh, that was
yeah,
Johnny.
Rosemary and Johnny Bravo.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, we won't go there because that could get very close to home very fast. So we
Yeah,
won't go there.
let's not talk about that one. Yeah, but yeah, that's another one. That was another absolutely crazy one. And of course, that happened mostly in Wrestle House, which makes it even crazier. I can only imagine you've got one question on your mind, Dad. Not when, but how many times did we consummate the marriage? Edge and Lita and Kane. Yeah, the one with Kane. Yeah, the Kane ones were always funny because I mean, he so didn't belong in any of those things. But yeah, absolutely. So I leave temporarily and come back, and y'all are already at this segment. Yes. Well, you
Yeah,
were gone. You were gone for a good little while, Jesse.
we've been moving along, Jesse.
Yeah, we moved along tonight. We kept it all business. Well, all right. So Jesse's back, so maybe she can get a few. Jesse, you don't have to come up with a whole bunch. We know you're going through issues with your keys and stuff like that. So whatever you can do is cool.
Yeah, give us a couple.
Yeah. You
We
don't have to go
like 2 or 3.
Yeah, you don't have to go through a whole big list. We know you're busy. Anyway, so while Jesse is getting prepared, we can let you know that, of course, tomorrow I'm kind of leaning toward we probably aren't going to have Abby's because of what's going on with G.O.D. Obviously, she is admitted to the hospital right now, so make sure you keep her in your thoughts and prayers with what's going on with her. That's not a really good thing to ever have. So make sure you keep her in your thoughts. So I'm kind of doubting we will have an episode of Abby's tomorrow. So it'll probably be the following week that will return. And then after that, we will be back on Thursday night for the follow-up to Rebellion. So if you're an Impact fan, you're not going to want to miss that because that's where we will see where the new storylines will start. What's next for Josh? What's next for Trey, like we were talking about earlier? What's going to happen with Sami Callihan? We got a little hint about him. Is he coming back? What about the Honor No More thing and what is all coming, going to happen? So come and join us on Thursday, 7:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our Impact Wrestling watch along, and then stay afterwards for After the Impact, which starts at 10:15 p.m. Eastern time, where we will talk all about the show that we just watched and everything that just happened. So that is what's coming up. And then next Sunday, I guess we'll be right back here.
Yeah. We'll do this again unless we come up with something else, which I think.
Yeah, we are talking too about possibly doing more of those classic watch-alongs as well. We got a really good crowd for that one that we did. It's very surprising the amount of views we got on that video. So it looks as if you liked it. So we might look into that and start doing some more classic watch-alongs as well. Maybe we were talking about maybe one a month or something like that. We'll see. But that could be coming up down the road as well too. Still ain't found those stupid things, LOL. So just filibuster for a couple minutes. I'll give you something, LOL. Sounds good. Remember the Brooke Hogan and Bully Ray wedding when Aces and Eights came out? Yep, I do.
Yeah.
I do. I miss Aces and Eights. They were an awesome faction. Very, very good faction.
We got to bring this up. We'll bring this up too. We got merch, people.
Yes. Don't forget there is Insiders merch out there. So there you can see it up on there. We haven't advertised that in a while, but we have a merch site and you can see the website for it down below. So go check that out and, rep the Insiders whenever you go to a wrestling show or whatever you're doing. Grab a t-shirt or some other kind of merch. And let us know. I said, if you get anything, let us know. Send us a picture. We'll put it up on the screen and we will show it off. When Calynn comes back, how about we get little E and ODB's wedding?
Y and ODB, yeah.
Yes. Well, anything with ODB is hilarious.
Yeah.
Anything with ODB is hilarious. I miss ODB. We had ODB in Impact for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, there you go. That's our plan of attack for this week. And then we have coming up, of course, then the week of when is that? That's coming. When is Backlash?
Not next weekend, but the weekend after.
So it's not the 30th, but the weekend of the 7th?
Yeah, I believe so. Let me look.
Okay. Yeah. So that's going to be a big weekend for us too, because the 7th we will have Under Siege.
May 8th.
There you go. So the 7th is Under Siege. So we will be doing that. Is Saturday, May 7th. The pay-per-view for Impact is Under Siege. And then, of course, May 8th will be Backlash. So we'll have 2 pay-per-views. Jesse managed to scrape up 4 or 5. One is a repeat. What about a special edition episode with Vintage Seller No Sells and or Booker Wrestler? Speaking of Aces and Eights, the Bully Ray Broken Skull episode was on an absolute. Yeah, Big Dan's been talking about that. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. All right, so Jesse has 4 or 5. So here we go. Wearing a lucha mask with an insider shirt is money. It is money. Yes, it is. Backlash is on Mother's Day. Okay. Well, that's a little bit of a weird day to have it, I think, but oh well. What are you going to do? Time flies. It's almost May. Yeah, we're almost halfway through the year. Yeah, January, February, March. Another month, a little over a month or so, and we'll be doing our mid-year awards.
Yeah. Already.
Time does really go fast. Man, that's crazy. My birthday is the week after Backlash, says Dan. So we're waiting on Jesse. And what else do you guys want to talk about? Chris Jericho. Number 1. What's the special dish in a restaurant for cannibals? Head, shoulders, knees and toes, head, shoulders. Oh my God. I used to that's a song you sing to your kids when they're like babies. That's hilarious. Fozzy, Chris Jericho. I think Fozzy has a new album coming out, actually, Brandon, if I'm not mistaken. I think they have a new album. I saw it in new releases that were coming up. So I think he has a new album coming out with them. So 6, by the way, counting that one. So we got number 1. We're waiting for number 2. Oh man, what a month it's been in wrestling. What a first half of the year it's been in wrestling. All right, here's number 2. It never breaks someone's heart. They only have one of those. Break their bones instead. They have 206. That was good. Fozzy, Chris Jericho, New Orleans. Oh, they have a concert, Brandon? Cool. Are you going? The Batman was an absolute masterpiece. Yes, I agree. Jeff finally saw it too.
Yeah, I've seen it 3 times now.
Have you really? Yeah,
Yep.
Nice. I've seen it twice. I'll probably end up watching it again at some point. Yeah, it was awesome. It was really, really good. And Doctor Strange is a few short weeks away now too. So yeah, I think that's the week of the. Oh my God, that's that same week. That's the week of the 7th, I think. Oh jeez, I'm not going to see it until the following Tuesday, but yeah, so that's coming up. We got the trailer for Thor: Love and Thunder, which looked good. So much going on. So much going on. Number 3. I think I told this, but I don't remember. Why are friends a lot like snow? If you pee on them, they disappear. Yes, they would. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess they would. Moon Knight. Yeah, I've been watching Moon Knight. They're up to episode 4. There's 2 left. So we have this week and then the following week. And then on Disney Plus, you get the Obi-Wan series, which I'm really excited for that. So number 4. They say the surest way to a man's heart is through the stomach. But I find going through the rib cage a lot easier. Jesse always has to get these sadistic, like serial killer jokes in. Yeah. She's mad about her keys, and now the anger is coming out. Number 5. What's the last thing to go through a fly's head as it hits the windshield of a car going 80 miles an hour? It's butt. Yes. Yes. Oh, gosh. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Man, you guys don't even understand. This segment with Jesse has its roots way back to before we even did this show. So yeah, I mean, this goes way back. Number 6 is up. My senior relatives liked to tease me at weddings, saying things like, "You'll be next." They stopped once I started doing the same to them at funerals. Oh my God. Wow. Wow. That was dark. Good. That was good. Dark. Definitely good though. Oh my God, that's funny. Well, there you go. Thank you so much, Jesse. Appreciate that. I know you're going through heck with your keys, but it was fun. Thank you for coming out and doing that. We appreciate it. It's been a week of WWE and NBA and NASCAR. I'm going to bed. Good night. Yeah, good night, Clay. Yeah, me too. My Celtics are up 3-0. And yes, best joke ever. That was a good one. Yeah, that was a really good one, Jesse. I'll give that to you. All right, guys, that is it for us tonight. Thank you for coming out and joining us. Our heart's always in this show because, again, this is kind of our bread and butter. This is where we started, and we always like to come back to it and do these as much as we can. So thanks for coming out and joining us. Really appreciate that. Again, thanks for watching. If you haven't subbed to our channel, make sure you do so. If you have not done so yet, make sure you throw up a like on tonight's stream, and also make sure you hit the notifications button so you can be notified when we have future content. This week, it looks as if we're probably only going to have Impact on Thursday, and then back here next Sunday. It looks like it will be our only 2 shows for this upcoming week. So make sure you come out and join us. So from Jeff and from myself, have a great rest of your night. Be kind to one another. Stay safe, and hopefully we will see you all for our next show. Take care, everybody. Good night.